this is Journal. Welcome back to HJ Goes Live. Today's webinar is sponsored by Wella Professionals, and for more information about their extensive colour portfolio available and how they can help your business during these difficult times, you can click the link in our description or visit wella.com/professional. But today we're joined by Jordanna Cobella, Wella Professionals craft expert and owner of Cobella Hair and Beauty in London. So Jordanna, thanks so much for joining us today.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to have a little project to start the day with.
It's great to have you and so excited to talk through what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to be discussing how to experiment with new colour techniques, refresh your colour skills and start the new year feeling really rejuvenated and ready to hit the ground running and make your clients really excited to get back in the chair with you after the festive season. So to start off, England is still under lockdown at the moment. How have you found this as a London-based salon owner?
So as a London-based salon owner, I think the second lockdown has got a slightly different vibe attracted to it. What I mean by that is we're slightly more prepared. It's not as much of a shock to the system. And a lot of us have already, as salon owners, we've kind of already set up our communication channels with our clients. So we already have all of their email addresses. We're already doing our, email marketing just to keep up the conversation. And of course, I've diverted all the phone lines over to my mobile so I can still keep up to date with any of the appointments that may come through, and with the team in terms of staying sort of in conversation with them. We've got a WhatsApp group, so we're constantly talking on that. We've got an Instagram WhatsApp group as well that we can share old images from, so that we can still have good content to post on Instagram. And then because there is a little bit of a loophole in terms of corporate events that you can host for this lockdown, we are actually doing an education day, and by that I mean we've got lots of mannequin heads that we've ordered. One day next week, all of us are going into the salon, no clients or anything, and we're just doing some new colour work. We're coming up with our new colour menu as a team, and we're just having a big old play around and experimenting with new techniques. And I would urge you guys to do that, because we are allowed to do that because it's classed as an education day. So it's not against the law, it's completely above board. And it's a good use of time, because we're never going to get this kind of time back. And as hairdressers, we're always strapped for time, trying to fit in training sessions in between clients. So it's really nice to have a full day. And if you are feeling a bit adventurous, even like 2 full days of education in the salon. I know a few other salon owners who have actually organised that. So I think it's something to really consider, because I always find that bouncing off each other's ideas is always something that leads to like new content or fresh ways of looking at things. So I'm excited for that actually next week.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great that you're making the most of this time, and doing as much education as possible is great. Yeah. And how are you staying creative during lockdown?
Do you know what? I'm sort of doing things that I wouldn't normally do, like DIY around the house, because I saw a lot of people doing it lockdown take one, and I never got involved. So now I've bought myself a full builder's kit. I'm painting my kitchen, plastering the walls, doing bits and bobs. I've got projects that I'm doing with haircuts for homeless. So just kind of dedicating my time to things that I know I probably won't get the time for in the future. But also just having a look at my business from an outsider's opinion. And what I mean by that is, when you're not in it, living it and breathing it every day, you have a really nice new fresh perspective when you take a step back from it. And so I'm looking at our colour menu, I'm looking at the way we structure our pricing, and things like that. And I think it's really nice to have both the creative element, like your mannequin work and your practical side of hairdressing, along with the business side of things, because the two are so intertwined and they do go hand in hand. And I spend a lot of my year sometimes in balance of business and actual hair. So it's nice to kind of have this time to like rejig that balance and maybe make a little bit of a plan moving forward. So yeah, trying to stay physically active as well as mentally active for the business. But I guess it's just nice to have a bit of time to do that, and then also have a nice meal, paint your kitchen and have a nice bath. So it's nice to kind of do it in a way that's not that pressured. And I think that's when creatives come up with their most genius ideas, or their biggest USPs for their company, is when they're kind of in a relaxed environment and things come to them rather than being really under pressure and strapped for time and financially worried. It's quite nice to actually, you know, come to a few realizations and creative outputs without having that pressure or trying to ignore that pressure that's already there looming in the background.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great to hear that as well. Like when you're not thinking about creating ideas, sometimes it's best to let those ideas kind of come to you, and that's often the best ones, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And what colour techniques or services have been popular with your clients this year? Is there anything that's really stood out?
Yeah, do you know what? And I think this is actually a trend that is a little bit late to hit the high street, but I'm rolling with it because if the clients want it, they want it. And it's root drags. So it's a lot of clients are going from full head of highlights, which is probably not the best for business, but full head of highlights. And they're saying, I want more of a reverse balayage or a root drag, that kind of thing. Now, the good thing about that is we can do it with, especially in the Wella colour portfolio, we can use our demi ranges like Colour Touch. And by that, I mean, it's not going to be permanent. It's going to have fade to it, which means they will want to come back for more. And what I normally say to my clients for that kind of, you know, reverse balayage technique, because they want to look a bit more natural, I always suggest let's use a semi-permanent, because that is more natural looking and it gives you the flexibility to then get it out of your hair or for it to fade if you wanted to change it up. And the good thing about semi-permanents is you do get repeat business. So they'll be coming in every 4 weeks. And even though with highlights, they'll be paying a lot more coming in every 6 or 8 weeks. With a semi-gloss, you're looking at probably every 4 to 6 weeks. And you can always add a treatment onto that. And of course, with root drag, if it's going on a nice highlighted base or a bleached base like mine, you can play around with so many different tones. So you can have a really nice beige biscuit blonde. You can go really ash, so long as it's light underneath. You can even go for a nice pink blush or any kind of hues that you can introduce. And then, of course, you can teach your clients how to kind of upkeep that colour and pass on any sort of hair homework to them, like, you know, different hair care routines or colour saving shampoo. So I think as much as, you know, we do want to give we do want to keep our highlight business, there is opportunity everywhere. And if they are moving more towards the natural look, we can introduce them to the entire portfolio and captivate them into buying into all the different options that they have. Because what I love about this year in colour is people are so much more experimental. They're looking at like a tiny bit of a pink hue in a blonde, and they're starting to get a little bit bored of ash blondes. So they're looking at maybe golden biscuit blondes and ribbons of colour. So, and that is our invitation to really show our hair artistry. And it's such an exciting time to be a colourist, in my opinion, because of that. And also because of the portfolio out there. You know, Wella's portfolio is incredible because not only have you got every shade chart, every shade that you can think of, it also has versatility in the maintenance side of things. So no longer are you thinking, oh, she's got to commit to this for 3 months. The commitment levels are so versatile and diverse for you to amend and adjust as a colourist. So really exciting time for colour. And people being locked up, I think, has made them a little bit more experimental. I think they're a little bit more daring. And I've seen a lot of, you know, pink washes and sort of lavender, peachy blondes, people doing it themselves, people asking hair professionals how to do it. I've seen Guido did an amazing pink wash, I think, on one of his celeb fashion clients, and I thought that was amazing. That came out, I think, in May. And so you're seeing the trends trickle down into the consumers and to the people at home in lockdown, and I think it is exciting time to be a colourist.
Absolutely. And I know we just touched on that a little bit, but are you seeing any more colours or anything that's particularly trending and you think might go into 2021?
Yeah, I think we are seeing a little bit more of a daring side of things. As much as, you know, you had that beautiful 90s money piece, which was a real statement, I think, for really cool sort of trendy people who are very fashion focused. There's also the other end of the spectrum, which is your highlight clients who maybe, you know, were your bog standard sort of full set of highlight clients, and now looking into maybe having a few colours interwoven. And so there was a trend that is making a little bit of a comeback, and that's tweed hair, which basically means really super fine highlights, but different colours of highlights, i.e. a sandy blonde mixed with an ashier blonde or a milky buttery blonde mixed with something else that are interwoven. And rather than being quite chunky sort of balayage pieces, they're really fine, and it creates the most beautiful like shatter effect when it hits the light. And so your blonde kind of really, really pops. And so that's the more sort of expensive, high-end, maybe classic client. And then for the kind of daring client, we are still seeing that like stripes, the reverse balayage, the slight subtle hues of expensive peach and a really cool pink. And I think that's really nice, because any colour, be it, you know, blonde, brunette, pink or copper, is accentuated because it's not a global colour. You've got highs and lows in every colour that's on you know, in the trend at the moment, which is quite nice because it just makes every colour pop really nicely. So I'm glad that we have seen the back of an all over colour, because I think that was a trend about 2 years ago, and it's nice to see highs and lows and different depths and different pastel hues. So I think there's a lot to expect for next year, depending on the kind of clientele you have. But either way, exciting times to be a colourist, because it's all quite complicated work and we can really cash in on that, which is great.
It's amazing. Great to hear that clients are being a bit more adventurous now. And yeah, as you say, that really gives us the chance to showcase the artistic skills that so many hairdressers have.
Exactly.
And are you seeing, or have you had any amazing hair colour transformations that you've done this year that you can share with us? Has anything stuck out for you?
Do you know what? You put me on the spot there. Let me think. I've got some on my Instagram that I can share on my stories that I'm quite proud of, because I work with a lot of model agencies, and so I get sent the models after a big hair job, and I love it because the challenge for me of stripping out colour or trying to replenish hair that has been overstressed, I love. And these aren't everyday scenarios that you're seeing, because obviously as a model you might go on a shoot and have your hair dyed blue and then you need it back to pink the next day. So I love those challenges, and I record a lot of those transformation videos on my Instagram and upload them. So I can share my favourite ones with you, because they're the most challenging ones, because not often you know actually what brand of colour has been used, what lies beneath. So it tends to be quite a stressful journey. But again, I think with everything like that, you always learn. And I wanted to talk through, just very quickly while we're on this topic, things that you guys can work on at home, because after all, the session is how to refresh your colour skills. So if you have got any mannequins at home, or if you've just got any paint, one of the things I love doing is melting two different colours together, because I love to see the middle colour that it creates. And so when we think of blending in the salon, and I know I've used a pink, a flamingo pink and a denim blue here, but when we look at blending, we do this all the time as hairdressers. You can use obviously any form of like commercial, you know, nice kind of base 7 melt into a nice ash blonde. But I've chosen these pastel hues so that you can really see the blend. And what I love to practice is the different ways in which you can blend. And for this technique, I've only blended down. So I've painted on my pink root colour, and I've blended down rather than blending up, because you see in a lot of the blending videos they do that. But when we think about the science of hair and the cuticle layer lying flat, what we want to do is bring the pink down first, and then paint a little bit of the blue onto that area and always pinch down in quite small sections. And you just get a really seamless blend. Whereas before, when I've kind of rubbed upwards, you tend to get like the odd kind of mark, the demarcation mark. But I find blending down by pinching with your index finger and thumb, you just get a really nice seamless blend. And another thing that I wanted to share with you that I learned when blending this is there is a middle colour here, and that middle colour between the pink and the blue is actually created by not oversaturating the section. So I've brought the pink down with my fingers, and then I've taken a tiny bit of the blue and I created a third colour. And it's not until I'm happy with the third colour blend that I then move down and fully saturate the end with the blue. And so what happens when you mix these two colours together is you get a third colour. So I'll show you on my next mannequin what I mean by the third colour, because not all the time does it work out well. So the third colour on this is, it actually cancels each other out. So I've used, it's not the best lighting here, but I've used Ultra Purple by Wella Professionals, which is kind of like a direct dye. It's called Colour Fresh Create. And I've blended it into a coral. So you've got your opposites, you've got your orange, your purple and blue. And what do? When we think about the colour wheel, they actually cancel each other out. So in the areas that you see my blend, you can almost see that it's kind of got almost like a really clean blonde, which you wouldn't necessarily expect when mixing blue and orange, but of course they cancel each other out. And so those are the things you have to think about and think ahead with. Similarly, if you were to mix a blue and a green, you would get a muddy brown. So if you wanted to be safe, always stick to the pastel side of things. And if you wanted to be a bit more daring and you have got mannequins at home, play around. And the way I've got this really nice sort of diagonal blend, or shine band, should we say, because that was the idea, to sort of follow the nose and shape down. The way I've got that is by using my cutting technique and my cutting knowledge. Just going to remove the lipstick from my teeth. My cutting technique, my cutting knowledge in terms of over direction. So when you're mapping out a colour, any colour in the salon, what you want to make sure of is, as much as we sometimes work in the natural fall, why don't we use our cutting knowledge like we do when we do our layers? We bring things forward and we over direct the hair upwards. So to make this band, I actually over directed the hair forward, and that's going to give us that really nice seamless blend. Similarly with the back, what I did is I actually over directed everything backwards to give us this blend, because rather than trying to work really hard on a diagonal, all I needed to do was take the entire triangle section backwards to create my blend. So I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, don't worry, because I have drawn it out for you on a, what do you call it, on a head sheet, and I'm going to share that on my story, and you guys can see it. Maybe I could send it to you and you can stick it on the end of the video.
Yeah, awesome. It looks amazing as well. Those colours together, it's so striking.
Thank you. So yeah, what I mean by that, I mean, I know it's really hard to kind of show you because it's already been done, but what I mean is, when you use over direction, you end up creating seamless blends because of the traveling distance of the hair. So if you're not a cutter, what you have to think of is, wherever you're pulling the hair, how it's going to sit in its natural fall, and those angles might actually make it easier for us as a colorist. So in terms of mapping out your color next time, try and think as a hair cutter, because that really helps me come up with unique ways of doing things. And also really salon friendly, because it just cuts your coloring time in half. And it's something I only recently discovered.
Amazing, great tips. And where do you get your inspiration for colour? Can you share like what your creative process is? Like, do you have any sort of things that you do to help get the creative juices flowing?
Yes, so I love Farrow and Ball, and I love painting and watercolours, I love the 70s, I love the 60s, I love interior design, I love mood boards. So I actually, for Cobella, we have a colour menu that we change annually. And when we come up with a colour menu, we create these mood boards. And the mood boards we originally created were sort of hair images. And then we thought, hang on, like we're inspired every day. And if we want our work to be unique, we have to look outside of our industry and stop looking at hair images and come out of that and look at food and interior design and fashion and decor and not necessarily nature, because that doesn't get everyone going, but you know, just the things around you. And so when we created our mood boards, we had lifestyle images, we had fashion images, interior design, and we found that our clients were identifying with those images, which was telling us a lot about them, and it really helped us learn what kind of tonal palettes they were after. And then we also have loads of stuff like this around the salon, just paint swatches. We've got all of these around the salon, all of the Wella swatches, and we've also made our own swatches as well, just so that you can tell what colours suit you, whether it's warm or cold. And having all those bits around the salon just hanging everywhere might look a bit busy, but it's so useful as a consultation tool. And of course, I think it's great to have, you know, a bit more of a vocabulary when it comes to talking about colour. And that's what these swatches are so good for, because they have the most obscure names like elephant's breath. And I'm sure everyone knows that that's that kind of grey blue. But yeah, and it's really nice to kind of talk about colour in a different way. And we also use a lot of food examples as well in Salon. So we'll talk about buttery blondes and butterscotch biscuits and digestives. Everyone gets excited when we talk about food, and everyone kind of identifies with the kind of colour. And I think last year we had the thing most mentioned in the Salon was Cadbury's Dairy Milk Caramel. That was Amazing. The blonde that everyone wanted to be. And it's funny because when you say it, you're like, I know exactly what you mean. But when you try and talk about it in terms of just words, you're like, what kind of blonde are you after? And then when you say caramel, you're like, I know exactly what you mean. So yeah, we use a lot of things to talk about colour.
Awesome. And what are your colour trend predictions for next year? Is there anything that you think will be massive next year?
Yes. Next year, I think we're going to see a lot of layered hair in terms of styling, and I think we're going to see quite a lot of, like I said earlier, really, really intertwined fine highlights in different colours to create that tweed effect, which is beautiful. And then I think we're going to still continue to see a lot of freehand work in block placements. So whether it's a block around the front or whether it's a block around the back, or even just a kind of isolated part underneath, because I think that's going to give the freedom and creativity to the clients who are becoming a bit more daring.
Amazing. And as we're all hoping that the COVID-19 situation will move in a more positive direction, ready in time for the festive season, what's your advice for prepping for the new year from a colour perspective, and how can you entice clients back into the salon?
God, that's a loaded question. So, okay, let's start. So with enticing clients back into the salon, I couldn't recommend enough for you to do a colour menu. And what I mean by that is we always, as hairdressers, we're always selling our services as either highlights, balayage or root tint. And that's the technique involved in the colouring process. But why are we selling the technique? Because you don't often look at a cutting menu and you see layers, one length, graduation. So why are we asking the client to choose the technique when we should be choosing the technique? And so why don't we brand our colouring menu to our companies, i.e. Cobella, or if you're a mobile hairdresser, to yourself, i.e. Jordanna. And why don't you brand the menu in terms of the Cobella contour or the 3D blonde? Call it something, characterise it, and create a beautiful mood board to go along with it. And you choose the technique involved. Is it a full head of bleach, then a lovely glossy toner and a colour melt? Is it a highlight because she might be quite dark and you need to have that level of lift? Or is it a combination of highlights with slicing and highlights with balayage? Because colouring in the salons has now become more bespoke than ever before. And I think we don't talk about it and boast about it enough. There's so much science and artistry involved in it. So why don't we as hairdressers shout about that? Because the more bespoke and complicated we can make our colours look, or boast about our colouring, then the more loyalty lies with you. So we should be, embracing that artistry and saying, this is the end result: 3D blonde, Cobella contour, the thickening service, whatever you want to call it, similar to how they did in blow dry bars. Other industries do it really well. And I think the more we can sell that as a service and then keep changing it, the more loyalty we have with the client who says, I can only get Cobella contour with Cobella. And so if she does go to someone else, she will be thinking, how will they know how to do this Cobella contour? Whereas at this moment in time, and I'm guilty of it too, I probably have about 30 odd clients who think they just get bog standard full set of highlights. But actually, it's full set of highlights I've mixed up with a little bit of balayage and a bit of backcombing around the crown to give it a bit of depth and blah, blah, blah. And we personalise the service, but we don't talk about it with the clients. So they don't know. And so if they ever are, thinking about going elsewhere, or maybe not travelling as far to come and see you because they've moved, then we're giving them that reason. And we're talking about it. You have a bit more of a hairline that goes ever so slightly further back. So, but around the hairline, I'm going to be really careful and use a different technique. We should be talking about that. And I think having a colour menu, even if it's a small one, just 2 services, that you brand yourself, you have mood boards for, that really gets the colour conversation going. And don't be disheartened when your clients don't fall in love with it or want it or ask for it. Just have them on display in your workspace, because they will start talking about it and they will ask about it. And especially if you're posting about it on Instagram, people will start picking up on it, and it starts the colour conversation, and it makes you look really ahead of the game and fashion led. So I can't recommend that enough in terms of enticing clients. And what was the last bit of the question that you had?
The last bit was, what's your advice for prepping for the new year from a colour perspective?
Prepping. So I'm a huge fan of making sure you've got everything in your stockroom. And it doesn't mean having 3 shades of every colour, but it means having versatility in the portfolio, because they're there for a reason. And I think more so now than ever, we need to be able to have and be equipped to have the products at our fingertips and the technology at our fingertips to do anything. Because you will get clients who just make that kind of last minute daring change, and you'll get clients who will say, how do I keep this at home? And you'll need to maybe make a really pigmented mask for them, and all these personalized bespoke ideas that you need to bring to fruition will have to have the equipment and the products in order to back up your work. So try and kit out your colour room, or carefully organise it so that you have one of everything from every range. Doesn't have to be every shade, but at least something from every range, because every range does something different. And particularly with Wella, you've got your lovely matte finish mixed with your shiny finish. And it's those tiny little details that if you can talk about with your clients, will get them coming back, and will make the loyalty even stronger. So you've got your matte finish, your sheer finish, you've got your, when you're doing a root colour, you've got your full saturation option, and then you've got your sort of mild saturation option that kind of grows out with a little less of a demarcation line. And all these little details, I think, for me, contribute towards that extra level of service, that extra level of loyalty, and extra level of cash to your business.
Awesome. So we're coming to the end of our session, but we've got time for a couple more questions. So Jordanna, what colour services will you be promoting when your salon doors do open again?
Well, we've just come up with our new colouring services, so I'm not going to tell you them until we release them, but there's 3 of them. There's one for brunettes, which is a lightening service. which is called Cocoa Lights. There you go, I'm already telling you. And it's really, really nice because I think there's a lot of brunettes out there that want to enhance their hair, but they don't want to go like to the blonde level because of maybe damage or compromise of condition. So we're playing around with the play on sort of colour and food and mixing them together to create, for example, cocoa lights. And I love the idea of being able to sell it as a service, as an end result, rather than a technique. And so I'm really excited to launch that. And the other two I'm gonna keep from you guys so that I can release them on the Cobella website when they're ready. But yes, we've got 3 new colouring services and they're coming out December.
Amazing stuff. Can't wait to see how they are. And we've had a question from Sam who's asked, how do you price your bespoke colour menu services? Have you got any advice for or tips for kind of creating prices for your menu?
Yes, I do. So with pricing, what I try to do with every colour service is I try to only allow for an hour application because that's the maximum I want to spend on that client. So I work towards that hour. And then I look at what would I charge if highlights were to take an hour. That would be, for me, that would be a 3/4 head of highlights. And I'll literally charge exactly the same as the highlights. And then any additions like Wellaplex or a toner, unless it's a toning job, will be charged separately. Because what I don't want to be saying to the client is, because I'm only applying a toner, I'm going to charge you 25. But actually that toner that I've applied and blended, and the level of precision it takes to blend that toner is equal to a 3/4 set of highlights. So I'm not telling her that it's a semi and I'm only using 25, I'm only going to charge £25. I'm telling her it's the 3D blonde, or this is what we call the, what was the name of it? I can't remember now, but let's say it's a root drag. This is the root drag, Cobella root drag. So they don't know that it's a toner, and they don't know that, you know, I could shove it on in 10 minutes, but I wouldn't be able to get that beautiful blend. And so it's all about the time that you're taking to do the service. And if you can stick to under an hour of application, then you should be charging, you know, the same as what you charge for an hour's worth of highlights.
Totally, yeah, so important to put that value on your service and your skills, isn't it? It's really important.
Yeah, oh, and one more tip, to get our clients to choose the services, we incentivise them by giving them 100 mils of free personalised mask. So what I mean by that is we would take Wellaplex, squeeze it into a bottle, and we'd either add Perfecton or we would add Colour Fresh Create to make it either like a warm or a cocoa or whatever. Or with the new Colour Fresh masks, you don't actually have to mix them yourselves. You can just sell them a mask within the price of that. So for example, I think for my pricing it was £120 for anything on the menu, but I gave them a free 100 ml of personalised mask, and that was their incentive to be like, do you know what, I'm going to try that this time. So that really helped.
Amazing stuff. Great advice. And thank you so much, Jordanna, for coming on today and sharing all of your tips and tricks. And it's been great chatting to you.
Thank you so much. So sorry I was talking there for so long. I'm going to upload the head sheets for this colour technique with, you know, the kind of over direction. I'm going to be uploading the transformation videos, my favourite ones. And then also with Wella Professionals, we're going to be releasing a blog on the ultimate colour consultation, but also on how to actually rebrand your colour menu. And it's got everything you need to know in there. And the blog is coming out in the next week or so. And it's going to be a written blog that you can look back on, but it's also a video blog. So you can choose whether you want to listen to it or read it. So hopefully that will actually shed some more light if you were thinking to do that for the new year in your salon.
Definitely, it sounds great. And what's your Instagram handle so people can go and check out what you're going to upload later?
So it's at Jordanna Cobella.
Amazing. So that's all we have time for now, but thank you so much, Jordanna, for joining us. And thank you to our sponsors, Wella Professionals, for supporting today's webinar. And for everyone watching, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Bye.